Hey Recovery Girls, Misty here, coming to you today to talk about the topic of gratitude. In my years of recovery, whenever I have been to a gratitude meeting, and I've been to a lot, in fact I was just in one this past week, each time the topic is presented, gratitude, I notice that I have an instant involuntary rejection of that topic. I never feel like doing a gratitude meeting or focusing on that topic. I want to talk about other things. So I've been thinking about why it is that I have an adverse reaction to this topic, and I think it's a couple reasons. The first one is that it almost seems to me like a suggestion that if I just have a positive thinking, that my life will be better and I should just be grateful. And that sort of ties into the second reason, that it seems very negating to me of the actual pain and suffering people are in, the pain and suffering I face from time to time, and seems sort of like a band-aid solution at the surface. But I will say this, every time I have taken initiative and stayed with it on a gratitude meeting, I have never walked away regretting it. So gratitude actually works, and it is not a band-aid solution. It is not negating the pain. It's actually the challenge to allow gratitude and pain to coexist. Sometimes in recovery rooms, many of us find ourselves dealing with the sort of all or nothing type thinking, black and white, yes or no, all or nothing type thinking. And so when we think about a gratitude list, it seems to leave out room for grief and for the processing of our pain. But actually, gratitude is about acknowledging the pain and sitting with it and doing the grief, and at the same time looking for the gifts in the pain and in the suffering and even the hurts. So how does that work? Well, once I remember I had been in the hospital for an ulcer, actually, that I had, which perforated, and it was a pretty scary situation, and I was rushed to the ER and emergency surgery, and then I spent 6 days in the hospital. Then I came home and my family got the stomach bug. So I was supposed to be recovering post-operative and resting, but what happened was every member of my family was vomiting and getting sick, and I ended up being the caretaker. And with my immune system so depleted, of course, naturally, then after everyone else was finished being sick, I got the flu and the stomach bug, and was on the floor, as many of us have experienced from time to time, on the floor in the bathroom, just fighting for my life, just miserable, like vomiting after I had had surgery, and oh my gosh, just like the worst, just really wondering if I was gonna make it through that. And I may have told this story before, I'm not sure, but I was on the phone with my sponsor, who dared to suggest to me, hey Misty, don't miss the spiritual gifts of this season. She told me this too shall pass, and she challenged me, don't miss the spiritual lessons and all that there is to glean in this moment. Well, I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. I was very unhappy with that advice. Not advice, but a challenge. And I hated that. But as I let it process in me, and as I dared to humble myself and open myself up to those spiritual gifts that God had for me in that moment, I can say that ultimately I discovered that I was given the opportunity to live very present and in the moment. I was allowed to let go of all the other responsibilities that weigh me down. Everything was stripped away, And it was down to just me and God and my family. And there was some simplicity in that. I was able to be on the floor of the bathroom in a home where I had blankets and running water and all the basic things that I needed. And I started to become really aware of those things. And the care I experienced when I can't do everything for everybody, the care I experienced in being nurtured back to health, those were all gifts that I could be so grateful for, and many more. I had different spiritual awakenings about God's provision for me and His presence, even in the midst of horrible pain and that type of suffering. So there were gifts, there were reasons to be grateful. So the challenge is, whatever you're facing today, whether you are recovering from alcoholism, whether you are recovering from sex and love addiction, or overeating or undereating or gambling, or whether someone that you love is struggling with any of those things, or a multitude of other pains, grief, the worst grief. We have a Savior that's experienced all these same pains, and there is fellowship with Him in that. And when we get stripped away of all the other things we use to comfort ourselves, there is some beauty in suffering to be had and reasons to find gratitude. And when I begin to shift my focus and allow space for gratitude, I find that the pain and the gifts do coexist. And I don't want to miss the gifts. I don't want to miss it. If I've got to go through something painful, I don't want to miss what God has for me in it. And I want to do all the growing I can as I pass through that season. So I challenge you today to take time to maybe jot down 10 or 15, 20 things that you can be grateful for today, and see if you can see God's hand and His provision on you and His love for you. And if that's hard for you to do, I challenge you then to pick up the phone list if you have a meeting that you attend, or get online and start doing some searches on what you can be grateful for today, and ask for input from others around you. And this is not a negation of the suffering you're experiencing, but a supplement to it, so that you make it count. I want it to count for me. And I challenge you with that today too. So with that, I pray for you today the knowledge of God's will for you regarding gratitude and the power to carry that out. Stay the course in recovery. I'll be on it too.